So all there is what's happening. This is it. This, what is. And what is doesn't come from a particular place. What is creating itself and is itself. It's appearing and disappearing in itself. So everything you see and everything you experience is creating itself. Almost like a cloud. You know when you see a cloud in a time lapse and you see it sped up, it almost looks like the cloud is appearing out of nothing. Like it sort of grows and you can't see what it's growing from. That's what life is like. Life is appearing out of itself. And itself is no place, not a thing. It's not coming from a particular place. It's appearing and disappearing into itself. And it's self-conscious. Life is conscious. Isn't that amazing? It's self-conscious. And science is beginning to catch up with this, but it's something that spiritual traditions have taught for thousands of generations, that life is conscious. That's so totally amazing. So consciousness isn't something that looks at life. Life is conscious. So consciousness isn't prior to life. Life is conscious and life is made up of no thing. So the way sometimes non-duality is taught, and I support that because it's really not an easy task talking about this stuff. It is not an easy task. It's beautiful and I love it, but it's hard to communicate because it's not something that's easy to communicate, and there's not a right way to communicate it. So the way that it's traditionally taught is that what comes first is consciousness. And consciousness is considered the masculine, it's considered wisdom, and it's considered the no-thing side. And some people go further than that and say what the creator of life is actually nothing, is not a thing found in this life. But a lot of teachings stop at consciousness, that consciousness is number one. Consciousness is prior to life. And life is considered the feminine. And normally, like as soon as life comes into existence, there is a sense of I am. So the second thing that comes into existence, traditionally what we taught, is the I am. This I am comes into life, and I am is considered love. But the I am is second. So the first is the masculine, which is consciousness, and the second is the feminine, which is life. And life comes after. And that's how it's traditionally taught. And then after that you get the body, the brain, the person, the things, the mind, and it carries on. But actually when you really dive into it, you see that nothing can't become prior to everything. So consciousness can't come prior to life, because life is conscious. Without life, there is no consciousness. You can have experiences where everything disappears and there's just consciousness and no thing, not a thing. But it's an experience in life. So life is conscious. And life is no thing. And no thing is everything. So no thing is everything. So what comes first? It's like the chicken and the egg. Does nothing come first? Is nothing prior to everything, or everything prior to nothing? So if everything did go into nothing, to not a thing, to non-existence, it wouldn't exist. So that can't come first. Non-existence doesn't exist. So non-existence can't come prior to life, because non-existence never exists. It's only ever existence. So in that argument, it doesn't work either. So some people try to correct me and say the consciousness comes first, or nothing comes first and everything is second. So they say that the masculine is first and the feminine is second. And I wonder if this is just a state of mind of our society, and actually one can't come without the other. Could there be consciousness without all things? So if consciousness comes prior to life, then there's something that's separate from itself. If consciousness is life, then there is no separation. If they're one and the same thing, then there's no separation. It's just that we're so used to this mentality that consciousness comes first. So we're used to the mentality that we're conscious of something. So we're the subject and something else is the object. So then when we remove that, we get used to this mentality that consciousness is conscious of things. But actually consciousness appears in the thing. And when you really have this explosion, the love side of the explosion, because there can be the no thing awakening, the consciousness awakening, but when you have the love side, you realize that that consciousness isn't everything, and the I am, the sense of existence, isn't everything. The everything isn't separate from that. So consciousness isn't conscious of something. Consciousness is the appearance of things. It's like a beautiful circle. One can't come without the other. They complete each other. You can't separate them out, because non-existence never exists. So if this world suddenly disappeared into non-existence for 20 billion years, it would just be instantaneous. That 20 billion years wouldn't exist. It would be instantaneous, because non-existence doesn't exist. So what happens in the human world is that the humans are in total denial of this. So what humans believe is they believe they're the center of the world as a person. Or maybe they don't, it depends on the personality structure. They believe that they exist as someone. So what happens at a very young age is we begin to think. And when we think, we objectify things and we separate things out. And we say, I am in relationship with that object. So I am holding a cup, which relatively, on the relative human level, that's a great way to communicate. Like, it's really intelligent the way we thought about communicating. So I'm in relationship with a cup. Like, I'm holding a cup. It makes sense in sentences. But what happens is there's an identification with that I, and we really believe that's who we are, and that this I is conscious and experiencing a separate world out there. And energetically it begins to feel like that. It feels like there's something solid, a soul inside this body, experiencing a separate world. So the soul stops here and the world is out there. But when the details of this existence is really explored, it's seen there is no boundary. Where is the boundary between your looking, the consciousness, and the I am and the world? So your sense of existence, that sense that you are, this is, where does that end and the world begin? Where does the consciousness end and the world begin? And you begin to see the experiencer, that which is ever present, that which is experiencing this, not the story of you, but the experiencer is not separate from things. All animals, the birds, the bees, the trees, the sunlight, the clouds, everything knows this and is this. But the human is like, no, I am separate from it. I am experiencing it. But who is experiencing it? Who is experiencing life right now, in this moment? Notice that the one that you describe to be experiencing this, so me, I am 37, I am English, I've lived in Australia, I've lived in Thailand, India, Holland, France. Where else have I lived? I've never lived in America, which you'd think would be a logical place for me to live, but I've never lived in America. What is my favourite country? I really loved Australia, and what I really loved about Australia was the native forests. I thought that was spectacular. We don't have that so much in Europe, but there's all different qualities. I love the culture in France, and I love the little town and living near a little town and walking. You don't get that sort of thing in Australia and America. I love that European lifestyle. And I love the diversity of Europe. I love Thailand, the beaches, the coconuts, the fruit. So that person that I've just described that said all that, so you followed that story of Lisa and you imagined me doing all those things, and you imagined my love for all those things, and you imagined me as this body, you imagined me as this age, and you imagined me experiencing all of that. That isn't who I am. That's not actually who's speaking or experiencing that. This person that I was just describing and speaking about, that timeline, is an experience. It's a film running. It's not the actual experiencer. The experiencer is only present. The description of the body and the description in time isn't actually present. It's something that's appearing and disappearing. Who you are is always here. It's always experiencing. It's so free. It's huge. It's the biggest thing, the loudest thing, the most intimate thing. It's love. It's total love. And that person that you described, so that person that I described, is something that comes and goes in this, and it's a functioning. There's nothing wrong with it. You can heal it. You can relax it. You can pretend you have control, although ultimately you don't, but you sort of like put lots of effort into choosing the right microphone or choosing the right computer or choosing the right house. But ultimately it's not your choice, because none of it solidly exists. All of it's appearing and disappearing. So we think that our memories and are sort of sucked together and belong to someone, but actually our memories are coming and going and appearing in this. They're totally free. The ideas, the images, the feelings, the emotions, all of it's appearing in this, totally free. It's so exciting. It's so wonderful. It's so free. This is who you are. This is who you are. This, what's here, what's present, and what's present is no thing experiencing itself as everything. Everything is conscious. Everything is alive, that sense of being. This is your home, this is your refuge, this is where you'll always be, no matter what happens. If you have a car accident, if you fly to Australia, if you buy something for yourself, all of it is appearing in this. This. This is it, baby. This is home. This. So now the person says, but Lisa, how do I stay in this? I keep going into time. The person always goes into time. That's what it does. It uses time to control circumstances. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a shift of energy from being that person to being this expansive looking, this I am. And that person doesn't exist. That person is fresh in every moment. It's not actually something that exists through time. It's appearing now, fresh each time. So everything you've ever done doesn't belong to you now. That's a memory that belongs to you, which is something different from what you believe to have happened. Everything's fresh now. You're not your timeline. You're not what you've done. You're not guilty or successful or brilliant. You're this right here, radically free. So it's not you that gets it, it's an energetic shift. We can relax that dynamic of you because the dynamic of you has got into a pattern of behaving neurotically, primarily because it believes a lie. It believes that you exist, that you have doership, that you have free will, and that you're acting independently from all other things. And from that belief, you create other bizarre beliefs. And you begin to encourage negative feelings, which sends the emotional body out of balance. It's too much responsibility to believe that you're in control of this life. So your emotional body begins to get uncomfortable. There's too much worry, anxiety, pressure to control. All of these things can be natural feelings that the person feels, but it's that they're emphasized when you believe that you're separate. Then this separation feels uncomfortable. So it feels uncomfortable, the highlight of you, the highlighting of you and your responsibility. So then what you do is you seek in time to try to fix that. So you seek in more mental activity, because time is an imagination. Time isn't a reality, it's an imagination that humans have collectively created. So you seek in that in order to try to stop feeling uncomfortable, dependent on what your society or what you believe to make you feel better, whether it be seeking for enlightenment, whether it be seeking for a new car, a new house, more money, children, family, lover, house plants, dogs, controlling things, whatever it be. And then you try to avoid things that you think will take things that will take your freedom away from you. Death, fear, negativity, confrontation. And you sort of begin to encourage this imagination, and this imagination is wild, and the more that you encourage it, the more you become out of balance, because it encourages your chakra system, your emotional body, to become uncomfortable. And then it creates tension in the body, which gives more feeling that you're somebody solid inside this body. So we can relax that, and I talk about that infinitely with people about how to relax that, and I'm happy to show it again and again of how you can relax it. Or you can just drop everything now and see that you're free. This is free. You are free. That feels nice. A little bit of blocked nose I have. We are having a blasting of pollen here. A blasting. So the person can do a couple of things. It can keep putting its attention to the I am. It can listen to non-duality. And when it's going through a lot of emotional turmoil, it can explore that emotional turmoil in the chakra system. It can explore where it's feeling the turmoil and what old belief systems it has in there. These are the things the person can do. But it's not really somebody's free will to do that. It's something that happens. So everything is something that happens. The idea that you're doing something isn't true. The thoughts and the ideas and the impulses appear, giving the appearance that you're choosing to do it, but actually it's just happening. So what I give is actually a description of what can happen rather than a prescription.